Hello my friends, and welcome to a video that's going to be a little bit different than what you're used to seeing. That is something of a review, or rather in this case a preview, for Forced 2. I was lucky enough to get in contact with the developers and find my way into the alpha testing. So a lot of features are missing that will be in, options are missing, that kind of a thing. Here I'm going to go ahead and show you kind of what it's all about. Now Forced 2 obviously is part of the series of Forced games. Forced 1 was actually quite a bit different than this. As you can see on the screen here, this is kind of a different game in general than what you're probably used to seeing with isometric style games. It is very roguelike, and it kind of is a mashup, I would say, between games like Torchlight or Diablo 3, and throws in Hearthstone essentially. It's actually kind of wild, and adds in procedural generation, gives you those cards to build a deck with, and essentially what those cards are going to do is they're going to act as your power-ups for each of the arenas that you're in. And essentially what you're doing is you're choosing different arenas with your particular deck build and then your particular character choice, and from there you're going to do what is essentially a horde mode arena style. You have a set map and then you just run around, and the objective is that you kill a predetermined number of enemies to progress to the next rank of that arena. And essentially you have mana, just like in Hearthstone, as you keep going through, you could call them turns, but as you go through the arena's levels, just as in Hearthstone, you're going to have one more mana per turn than you did the previous turn, unless you have a card that modifies it. And this allows you to play certain cards at certain times, just like in Hearthstone. So you have to balance your decks so that you don't get completely flooded with late game cards. You do have the ability to mulligan your entire hand in the beginning if you so choose, but you're going to have one card every turn that is drawn, again, unless you have a card that draws multiples. And this will hopefully allow you to keep a momentum going, to scale your power level with the arenas and not fall behind, because at some point you might hit a plateau of damage output, or you might be killed too easily because the enemies start putting out more damage than you have health. Then if you don't spend all of your mana for that particular turn, it'll basically just get wiped. And so as of right now, Forced 2 is looking like a very, very straightforward, very simple concept, and it is. But in that simplicity, do not be fooled into thinking that simplicity equals very, very easy and boring. It's still very much a challenge, and very much something that kind of makes you want to keep coming back, because it's that challenge, and because it gives you a different way of handling these styles of horde mode or arena style games, however you want to term it, and gives a lot of replayability because it allows you to experiment with different decks as well as different characters, and then just different strategies for clearing out the particular mobs of each arena. And fortunately, even in alpha, there are a couple different maps that you can choose from right off the bat. Gives you a little bit of variety, not only in the enemy choice, but it also in general look and feel of the arena. Now, part of the simplicity does come actually in its control scheme. With the WASD controls, you're going to be moving around, using those to strafe as best as you possibly can to avoid damage, because health is something that is very hard to come by, even when you have cards that do heal you. But you're going to have your mouse buttons as well as the Q and E keys that will activate your abilities. And any activatable cards that will give you, say, a shield or give you an extra attack, that kind of a thing, will be assigned automatically to whatever numeric keys are available. So if you activate a card, it'll pop up on 1, and anything after that will come 2, 3, and so forth. Now your mouse buttons will activate your basic abilities, but if you hold on to that and charge it up with the laser beam guy here he's going to have a stronger, bigger beam, but it's also going to mean that he ends up moving slower. as you charge up and have a more powerful attack, it's going to sacrifice movement, and as such you are not going to be able to avoid damage as easily. So you're going to have to be careful as to how and when you utilize your abilities. Now your E and Q are going to be character specific as well, and generally, at least so far, the two currently available characters each have their own defensive shielding ability, and then one very, very offensive ability. So, pretty straightforward, not too hard to understand there. You are going to have to be dealing with environmental effects. You have grates that shoot out poison or fire. You have enemies that are going to explode or have a particular attack path that you have to avoid over and over again. All the while, you're dealing with other enemies that might be coming at you. So later on, this gets into a bit of a frenzy. It gets very stressful when you have a number of enemies on screen that you have to track all at the same time, as well as yourself, so it gets very hectic. But that's the challenge and that's the fun. For fear of rambling on for too long, go ahead and end it there. It really is pretty much everything it says on the tin right now, since it's simply an alpha at the moment. And I'll be keeping track of its status as it continues to develop and it continues to become a more full-featured game. And you might see this pop back up when it's actually full release. But until then, go ahead and leave you with some of the gameplay. Hope you guys have enjoyed this little preview into what Forced 2 is and will be in the future. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and as always, I will see you guys in the next one. Cheers!